Hello Promise Fellows, and welcome to the Knack online tutorial. In today's video, we will go over how to log in, entering student data, building a baseline, adding benchmarks, adding intervention time, editing a student, and adding great stories. In order to access Knack, you will first need to open an email that you should have received from us. The email will be from noreply@mnyouth.net. Please make sure to check your spam folder for this email, as it may have been sent there. In this email, you will have a link to the Knack website, and from there, please follow these instructions to reset your password. Once you have successfully reset your password, you can return to the Knack login page, enter your email address, enter the new password you created, and sign in. Once you have logged in, you will be brought to the Knack homepage, which contains a list of all of the students at your service site. It's important to note that if you are the first person entering students at your site, this list may be empty. Once you are ready to start building your focus list, you can add students by clicking the Add Student tab found at the top of the page. Once you click that, it'll bring you to this next page that'll ask for information about the student. It asks for the student's first name, their last name, and their MARS number. A MARS number is given to all students in the state of Minnesota, so please work with your supervisor to find that. It's also important to keep in mind that some community organizations may not have access to this, and if that's the case, please click MARS number unknown. It will also ask for the student's ethnicity, their grade in school, their gender, their date of birth, whether the student is on an individual education program or a 504 plan, whether the student is on free or reduced lunch, whether the student is an English learner, whether the student is experiencing homelessness, and if the student is a student parent. For any of these options at the bottom, you will have yes, no, unknown, and site does not disclose. Please choose the one that would be most appropriate. Once you have entered all of this information, you can click Submit. Once you have successfully added a student, they will appear here on the home page along with any other focus list student that is at your site. If, however, you would like to narrow this list down to only your focus list, you can do so by adding a filter here at the top of the page. Once you've entered that, change the first tab to member name and the last one to your name and click Submit. Once you do so, this list will be narrowed down to only your focus list. If for any reason you need to edit student information, you can do so by finding the student that you wish to edit, clicking View BM/Interventions, and then clicking Edit Student Record found at the top of the page. Once you click that, it'll bring you back to that same page that you created a student with, and you can make any changes that you need here. Once those changes are made, please click Submit. Next, we will be going over how to add baseline data for your students. In order to do so, first find the student you wish to enter the data for, follow the table all the way to the right until you see the View Benchmarks/Interventions. Then you can click on that. Once you click on that, you will be brought to the student's home page, and near the top of the page you will see a section titled Baseline Attendance. This is where you will want to enter the baseline attendance. The first piece that you will be asked about is the baseline attendance period. It's important to note that you should build the attendance based off of the biggest time frame that you have. Since it is the beginning of the year, we are going to use last school year's. If you don't have last year's attendance information, or if the student is new to the school, or if you are starting later than September, you could wait and monitor the student's attendance. If they qualified, then you could choose last month. Similarly, you could add students based off of quarter or trimester attendance throughout the year. For this example, we will be using last year. Once you select your attendance period, click Submit. Next, you will be asked to enter the days absent for that baseline period. You can click on the box, enter the days absent, and click Submit. You will also be asked to enter the days tardy. It's important to note that tardy is tardy to school. The Promise Fellow model goal is to get students at school on time and ready to learn. That said, most schools measure tardies for all periods. You will need to make sure that you are only looking and tracking at tardies to school. To add, you can click in the box, put in how many days tardy the student was, and click Submit. This will also give you this in a percentage form and let you know if the student qualifies to be on your focus list based off of attendance. Once you have added the student's baseline attendance, you can scroll down to this section titled Baseline Work Completion. Here, you will be entering the work completion for the student. It's important to note that work completion is measuring the progress within the school year. If you are supporting a student starting in September, then you want to wait to see what core classes that the student is struggling with. From that, choose 2 classes that you will track on throughout the year. If you are building a student after September, you should have access to last month, quarter, or trimester to be able to immediately build that student. Once you are ready to enter the baseline work completion, you can go to the first tab titled Baseline Work Completion Period, and here is where you'll select the period. We will be doing the last month of 1920. Once you select your period, you hit Submit. Next, you will be entering the work type. The work type is essentially what subject the class is in. We will be doing math, and click Submit. Next, you want to enter the class name. Some students take more than one subject, so this is for you to specify and clarify which class you will be talking about. Once you enter that, you can click Submit. Next, you want to enter the baseline score. And baseline score is based off of percentage. When you are selecting work completion percentage, you should get that info from a school database. This can be looking at complete versus missing assignments, or by talking with the teacher and asking them their current work completion percentage. This is not their grade in the class. Once you pick out the percentage, you can click Submit. You will do this for 2 courses in your student's profile. The third and final piece of baseline data that we will ask you to enter is the student engagement inventory. This can be found in a section right above baseline work completion titled Student Engagement Inventories. Here, once you've waited about 3 weeks after you started to build that relationship with your students and have them understand that you are a safe and caring adult, you may administer the SEI. This SEI will be administered either through an online system or paper form, and you will enter the scores into Knack yourself. Once you are ready to enter the scores, you will click the tab titled Add New Student Engagement Inventory. Once you click that, it will bring you to the page where you will enter all of the information. First, you will enter the date of the inventory. Second, you will enter whether this is a pre-test or a post-test, and then you will enter their score for each item. It's important to note that the students must answer all of the questions and they cannot skip any. Once you've entered all of the scores into the inventory, you can scroll to the bottom and click Submit. Once the SEI is successfully submitted, you can return to Student Details, scroll down to the Student Engagement Inventory, and see whether the student qualifies to be on your focus list based off of their SEI. And as you can see here, our student does qualify. As you begin your work with your focus list students, it is important to track all of the time that you spend with them. In order to do so, you can scroll down to the bottom of the students page until you see a section titled Weekly Log. Here you'll be given an opportunity to track all of the time that you spend with each student. This section is broken down week by week, and each week has 3 categories of time. There's caring adult minutes, which is informal mentoring and tutoring during the school day. We have service learning minutes, which is essentially a service project or service learning, and out of school minutes, which is essentially any time that you spend out of school or out of the school building. We also ask that you check in on WHOOP goals weekly. After your one-on-one training, which is about a month into your service, you will receive a training on WHOOP goals. At that point, you will be expected to touch base with each of your students' WHOOP goals weekly. Until then, you would select no unless you are a returner that feels comfortable starting that process early. In order to enter time, you will first find the week you want to enter the time for and the category of time you wish to enter it into. So the week of October 14th, I did 30 minutes of service. Once you enter your time, you can click submit. As mentioned earlier, you will be asked to check in on WHOOP goals every week. In order to do so, you can go to the WHOOP goal check-in section, find the week you are checking in on, click on it, and then yes or no. Once you've entered that, click submit. You will be given a weekly total here of the minutes that you served in each category, as well as a yearly total up here. This total is broken down into each category of minutes as well as a total here. Along with this weekly intervention log, we also have a couple benchmarks throughout the year for you to track on. The first benchmark we will be talking about is attendance. You can find this by scrolling up on the student's page until you see a section titled Quarterly Attendance Log. If your site is on a trimester system, this will say Trimester Attendance Log. Each benchmark is a different quarter or trimester throughout the year. To enter the data, go to the quarter or benchmark that you are currently in and add the information that they ask for. The first one is days absent, so you can enter how many days absent your student was during that benchmark period. Second, it asks you days tardy, how many days tardy was your student during that benchmark period, and you can click submit. Once you enter this information, you will see that it gives you a percentage here, as well as giving you a graph down here. These graphs tell you attendance by quarter and percentage of tardy by quarter. It also gives you your baseline in comparison. As you fill these out throughout the year, this graph will also be continued to fill out, and you can see the change in your students. The second benchmark you will be tracking is on work completion. To find this, you can scroll down to a section titled Quarterly Work Completion, or if your site is on a trimester system, this will say Trimester Work Completion. Here you can enter the work completion for each of the classes that you entered for your baseline. So for quarter 1 in my science class, you can click that and find the percentage that your student is at in that class for that quarter. Once you can click that, you can hit submit and do the same for the second class. Again, it's important to remember that work completion is not the grade that they have in the class, but rather the work completion in the class. And the last piece that we will be going over today is great stories. In order to get to your great stories, you can scroll to the top of the Knack page and click the red tab that says Great Stories. Great stories are a way for you to show the progress that you've made supporting your students. This is where you can paint a full picture of the support that you are providing. Throughout the year, we will try to spotlight different great stories. If that happens, please note that we will reach out to you and ask. Additionally, we will de-identify any student name or information. In order to add a new great story, click the button at the bottom of the page that says Add New Great Story. Here you can enter the date, and then you can enter the great story here. If you wish to add any files that would be pertinent to the story, such as pictures or documents, you can do so here. Once you've completed all of this, You can submit the story by clicking the red button that says submit. If you want to go back to your great stories, you can click the red button again. And here will be a list of your great stories. You will be expected to submit a great story for every benchmark throughout the year. And that brings us to the end of our time together. If you have any questions about how to use this system, please contact Gnome Wigs. Thank you, and welcome to your Promise Fellow Term of Service.